It's Sunday for us. Maybe it's Monday for you. Tuesday, you're at the gym. You're working hard, trying to get yourself back in shape. Maybe you're on the bus. What's the name of the person that we're always talking to on the bus, Tristan? Is it Jim?
Yeah, let's go with Jim or Tim.
And Jamina, Tim. That was it. And then Tina was the girl. Tina, Tim. We support you on your bus ride. We hope that it goes smoothly and that there's no delay. This is YouTubers Not United, the podcast by growing YouTubers for growing YouTubers. I'm Will. I'm here with my good friend Tristan from Step Back History. Say hello, Tristan.
Hello, everybody. That was a very interesting opener.
I wanted to mention to you, Tristan, that I've noticed that algorithm has been it's been doing some throwback stuff to me this week. So, I posted my video about Andrew Jackson. It's a very American-centric topic. And YouTube comes in waves. YouTube views comes in waves. And if you watch, on the real-time views, you'll watch it kind of go up and down. It's almost like the tide coming in every few hours. At least for me it is. And I noticed with this Jackson video that there is a very, very big out tide or low tide during the evening times in America. And I know it's because the topic is specifically for Americans. And it just reminds me so much of when I was first starting out and there was no one else watching my content except for Americans. And it's just funny to see the algorithm behaving in just predictable ways and yet at the same time a little bit surprising. You told me the algorithm has been doing something goofy for you as well at the moment, but in a good way. What's been happening on your side of the ocean and your side of the algorithm?
All right. So about, I'm going to say on the 24th until even maybe it peaked about on the 25th, but it's still pretty good. There's a video I made called The Truth About Native Americans Before Europeans Arrived. It's my video about the book 1491. Came out almost a year ago. Pretty close to a year ago anyway. And I was looking through, I got a huge spike in views on it, and I was looking through the data and starting to find that the top reason that these views were coming in was browse features, and specifically homepage, which means that, the algorithm's picking it up, right?
Woo! Algorithm love!
And also watch history and watch later, signs that the algorithm's picked it up, which is strange because it's an old video.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that video in your, when you first started your channel, your character has kind of evolved over time. When you first started, your character was much more, rounded and white, and your glasses were much more, I think you had glasses in that, maybe I'm imagining things. Is that your original character style, or was it, one step up from that?
It was one step up. It was before I had skin tone, but after I stopped, making things out of, literal, just a block with eyes.
It's good that your character was able to cure his vampirism over time. That's
true.
Nice.
My early things looked like I basically put googly eyes on a potato and made a video out of it, which I actually would have done better in the long term. So I started looking, okay, well, where is this traffic coming from? How are people finding it? And on top of the algorithm, I also find reference to a video called, a lot of search traffic coming from suggested videos for a video called Why Native Americans Didn't Wipe Out Europeans with Diseases from a relatively big channel called Today I Found Out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know that channel, yeah.
This video was created on the 8th of December, 2015, and was released on the 6th of January, 2016. So I'm getting a spike in traffic from a video that is over a year old to my video that's almost a year old this week.
That's really, really weird. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm confused about that last detail. You said that the video was created? You mean the Today I Found Out video was created?
I guess they uploaded on the 8th of December 2015, and then they released it on the 6th of January.
What? Oh, that's only a month later. Okay. Sorry, I just heard 2015, 2016. I was thinking that this channel was waiting a year to publish a video. Never mind. Anyway, that's really wild. And again, this is not a trend. It's not like this is the Super Bowl and people are searching for it because it's that time of the year. This is like 1491. This is history. It's not a trending topic. I wonder what the difference was.
If you have an answer, please send an email to.
YTUnitedPodcast at gmail.com. By the way, we've been listing our website incorrectly in the show notes, and I apologize to anyone who's tried to click on it. Yeah,
Tom Hanks is here now. Or sorry, Tim
Allen, bro.
Tim Allen.
Tim Allen. Come on, man. Get it together. Get it together. We researched. We practiced this. YouTubersUnited.com is actually our website. Wait, let me double check. I feel like this is one of those moments in your life where you've double checked something and yet you're still like not sure because you've made that mistake. YouTubersUnited.com. I type it in. Yes, and it goes to the Podbean site.
You can trust our advice because we even know the URL to our own website.
Yeah, Jesus. It's one of those moments where you realize, oh my God, some people just have it so much more together than I do. Yeah, YouTubersUnited.com. Sorry to anyone who was so desperate to go to our website and just see our beautiful faces. I don't know if will we upload our faces to the website when we build it.
I mean,
is that going to happen?
I mean, I'd upload a picture of our faces. To upload our actual faces would be.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if we have the technology.
We have to wait till Generalissimo Trump upgrades the NSA technology to where if you type in like an incorrect search about him, then you're automatically upgraded and downloaded to the mainframe. But that's at least 50 years from now into his presidency. So, okay, I thought we would jump into a discussion about. Well, congratulations, first of all. Can you tell the people out there listening what? Like how long has this algorithm boost been going on for a long time, or is it just kind of come and gone?
Well, the data seems to be showing that there's still stuff going on. Things look good, but I would probably say that it peaked for about 2 days.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the data shows it going down, but I'm still getting a fair amount of views, and it's now like a few days after the end of the data, so...
That's cool, man. I noticed at times there'll be... there's just like it'll go down for a day and it'll jump back up and then it'll go down and crash to the floor and then jump to the sky. I don't know. The algorithm is weird in that way. But we'll get an update on that next week. Next week we'll also get an update on your collaboration with Cypher over at Cynical Historian. He posted part 1. Everyone should go check out, and I'll put it in the show notes. I'm gonna write that down. But everyone should go check out that collaboration part 1 on Cynical Historian's channel. And then am I allowed to say this? On Thursday, Step Back History, Tristan will be uploading his part of this collaborative ping pong match that they're playing.
Yep, that should be like 1 week after he posted his video. I'll be posting up mine. And it does, like, it results in a couple things. So the release got delayed by like 2 days, sadly, which means that this will be the first time I pulled a Will and didn't release a video in an entire month.
Welcome to my site.
But that means that February is just going to be loaded with content. At least 3 videos on my channel.
Really?
With this ping pong match.
Yeah. No, I didn't realize it was going to be that fast. Yeah, it makes sense because in a week, then he'll ping pong it back, and then you'll get a couple of videos up real quick. That's awesome, dude.
The reason why I took all of January off is because I was making 3 videos at the same time. Mm-hmm. And they're all more or less ready to go.
It's not just because the AdSense revenue is lower in January. That's not the reason. I don't know. I'm just kidding. Let's talk about thumbnails. Me, Tristan, we talked about thumbnails actually in a previous episode that never made it to air. And so we're going to have that conversation again, and we're going to make it sound as authentic as we can, because on the YouTubers United podcast, we're not YouTube experts, but we promise authenticity and action. So today we're going to talk about what we like in thumbnails, how we create our thumbnails, and more importantly, what YouTubers far bigger than we are doing to get those clicks. And of course, we're going to flirt with clickbait, but we're not gonna actually go on a date with clickbait. So let's get started with just some fundamentals of what makes a good thumbnail. Tristan, do you have like some building blocks for us? What fundamentally needs to be in a thumbnail?
It seems like I've been following some of the really big YouTube channels lately to just see what's going on. and I think I've come to a few conclusions, but I'm not sure. Like, you can tell there's almost something that clicks in your head when you see a good thumbnail. And a thumbnail is important because it is the most visual gateway to your video. And if you wanted to get the good suggested and homepage traffic, they got to click on your video over all the other videos. So be on top of it. And there seems to be a formula that works rather well, but I imagine it's open for a lot of variation. This is the one you'll see on PewDiePie's channel. This is the one you'll see on that guy who stings himself with insects channel.
Oh my god.
Which exploded into virality on Christmas Eve, if I recall.
Yeah.
And
Did it? I mean, he was getting millions of views before Christmas Eve. Did he blow up to the sky or something when I wasn't looking?
I don't know. I found out he existed on Christmas Eve anyway.
Oh, okay.
And so I was looking at this video, or I was looking at these thumbnails, and I noticed that there's a face, the face of the creator, usually something fairly expressive. Mm-hmm. And then a kind of brightly colored background with a lot of contrast, like a lot of contrasting colors, so that it, visually sticks out in your head. Mm-hmm. And then maybe 1 to 4 words that just kind of intrigue you. They don't even have to be a coherent sentence. Sometimes it could be like, my big screw up.
Yeah.
And then have a picture of a
died.
guy grabbing his head and looking sad and looking like, anxious or something. And that would be...
I wonder which creator you're referring to right now that would ever do something like that.
The answer is all of them.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking specifically of the PewDiePie. He's really notorious for his grab his head, expressive, I almost died, I'm not making videos anymore. That reminds me a lot of him. I will say, as a side note, and to kind of buttress what you're saying, I love that word, eyes, like eye contact. If they can see the white of your eyes, then you're in really good shape. Now, just to be clear, we're talking about YouTubers who actually have themselves in their videos. This doesn't work if you're not going to show yourself in the video. That would just be weird and misleading. But if you can have the whites in your eyes showing, it's going to get more clicks, especially, as Tristan said, if it's expressive. You said PewDiePie. He does it really well. Boogie2988 does it really well on the gaming side. I think his eye whites are in just about every video.
I'm trying to think of some successful channels that don't regularly show their face, but also aren't so big that they could do anything and they'll be fine. And I'm not exactly sure what they do.
So I can tell you, just let me get there. Let me just say one more who's the king of the eyes, and then we can talk about people who don't show faces. And that is, Vsauce is the king of the staring. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, one of his thumbnails recently was literally just an eye. Just staring right at you. So the king, if you're looking for good examples of this, the king of eye contact is Vsauce. As an example of someone who doesn't show face, I think you could argue that at the beginning, Kritzgesagt, in a nutshell, was a channel that did now sure they could upload an emoji poop and they'd get 1 million views, but at the beginning, it wasn't like that. They used contrasting, their color scheme. It's hard to describe their color scheme, but what they would do is they would create a level of isolation in the image to where your focus was on one single thing. And if I just click over, I have a tab open with Kritzgesagt.
Even if you can make it look like an eye or get an eye into it, they still manage to do it, even if it's cartoon.
Yeah, that's true. Almost always. I'm looking at their vacuum decay video, which is a skeleton looking at you. Death from Space is one where there's lots of black space in there. It looks like a lightsaber coming up out of just blackness. Their malaria video is just a plant, but it's very colorful. It stands out. The one that I always...
dude, the malaria video, that's a mosquito. That's a mosquito's head.
Yeah, you're right. And the one that I always think about when I was going to search for an example was their War on Drugs video, where they have kind of this octopus with tentacles, and the focus is really there. Yeah. Safe and Sorry, oh my god, that one's just a bunch of eyeballs, so that doesn't count. Antibiotic Apocalypse, that one's just germs. So I guess we're getting off track here, but yeah, they bring your focus into one single area of the thumbnail, and they do that really, really well. They use kind of like that negative space, the darkness, to bring your eyes into the center or to a specific spot on the thumbnail.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of browsing over the trending videos, and it's not surprising that there is a face in just about every single one.
Yeah.
If you're not putting a face on it, the things you can find I can see here as like a regular turning up are text, but like literally no more than 2 words. Like there's one here for some reason called peeing yourself, which is,
Trending tab. That's
trending
the trending tab for it.
trending tab.
Trending. That's what everybody's watching.
There's also one of just, it looks like they did some sort of cool material thing. How does silicone react in a vacuum chamber? And it just shows an interesting visual, something intriguing. So if you do have an interest in things like that, if you have no face to show, try to think of what might be the most provocative and visually interesting frame that you can show. I think that I'm learning a lesson even through this, because I believe if I look at my own thumbnails, I think my thumbnails are one of my weaker things.
They're consistent, your thumbnails, and
They're
your character
consistent.
usually is there.
But I think that
It's
there's
not
problems with
provocative,
that.
no.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
character is not provocative. I usually have them too small, so the whole whites thing doesn't work really well. And also, having consistent branding is good, but it's a soft purple, which doesn't look all that visually interesting. It doesn't stick out. My new one has, like, goes from black to a white with purple in the middle, bit more sticking out. And it also has a little bit of an alternate framing thing, which we'll talk a little bit about. But
Oh, I have another suggestion for, so if you're not using faces, what you can do, and if you type in to your YouTube search bar, everyone ready, Real Life Lore. He's on his way to 1 million subs, if I'm not mistaken, and his thumbnails almost never have faces in them. But what they do have is they have one object, a tsunami, a building, an island, a globe, and more importantly, next to that one item is a giant red arrow. Always a giant red arrow. And if you need, like, that's in education sphere, but like top 10 lists are notorious about this. They'll just put a red circle around a random thing in an image and put an arrow to it just to be suggestive. I mean, that is, in the top 10 example, that is just pure clickbait. But that is, I mean, putting a red arrow, I do it, and I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing. It just, for some reason, people look when there's a red arrow. It's worked for me in the past, and it's worked for Real Life Lore. And it's definitely like prevalent when there's not a face, or even sometimes when there is a face in a thumbnail.
yes, I would say if I were to explain the arrow, but also to give you some advice for thumbnails that you might not hear on your like everyday YouTube guru channel, and that is to get yourself an understanding of color. When you have thumbnails, when you realize that you're making something that people only look at for tiny fragments of a second when they're deciding, sometimes, and you want to draw your attention, you should have a good idea of the concept of the color wheel. And you want to have your thumbnail have opposite sides of the color wheel on the same slide. You want to have a strong contrast between the colors on the opposite sides of the color wheel, because that will stick out in your mind. And one of the things you really want to do with your thumbnail is, beyond anything, you want to stick out and just grab somebody's attention. There's people who talk about clickbait as like a bad thing, and maybe when it comes to titles, there are some dishonest things there, but I feel like thumbnails are purely for clickbait purposes.
In a way, yeah, but I mean, clickbait is, in the end, it's misleading, right? So if you're putting something in the thumbnail that's not in the video, then that's not okay. If you're being provocative with something that truly is in the video, then you're correct. I mean, you have to find a balance depending on who your target audience is. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I would just react a little bit to being just to put that misleading line in there. It's important not to be deceitful. That's the word I'm looking for. Deceitful, but to, yes, grab that attention.
Don't lie, but make sure that you are aware of the color balance, that something sticks out, either by, if you look at a lot of the real life lore videos, he does the red arrows, but if you notice, in a lot of cases, the red arrows are red on blue. Because I think red and blue are on opposite sides of the color wheel.
Yeah. A couple people I drag out who use text well. We haven't spoken about text yet. Text is something you have to be really careful with. I've noticed a lot of gamers just do giant neon text with a little bit of black outline. To me, it all blends together. I don't see when I happen to stumble on a gaming video and I look over to the suggested and it's all just neon text, I get lost. So I think that might be just a giant cliche. Someone who uses text very well. I have two examples. One of them is Charisma on Command.
Yep.
He has a face and big white letters, sometimes red. And that's it. It usually looks pretty good. Another good example is for a more serious news channel, Seeker Daily. They have just between 2 to 3 words, sometimes maybe 4 maximum. I don't think that ever happens. I really just 2 white text words in the bottom left or top left corner of each thumbnail. And it just reinforces the title, but it doesn't just replace the title. It's not the same as the title, that is to say. So that is another option for really good examples of text usage. Do you have an example of a really good text usage, Tristan?
I still think that nothing sticks out to me of like a particular, I think you had some good cases when it came to Charisma on Command and also a Seeker Daily. I think, though, you want your text not to be descriptive. I think, when you look at the real-life lore example that we just looked at, he uses too many words.
Okay.
And I would think that you really want 1 to 3, possibly 4 words tops. Because, like I said, you're trying to sell attention in as little as possible, so you really want them to be able to be sold in the video with as little effort as possible.
Let me jump in. I have another example here of, we were talking about Kritska Sucked earlier. I'll just mention them again. They do a really good job with text. I've noticed that actually the majority of these, every single one of these has 1 to 2 words, maximum 3 of white text. As an example, outside of the education sphere, not for text, but just for really good thumbnails, this is a weird one. At least it would be weird in our circle. I have a fitness channel here called Pump Chasers. Type it in. It's Chris Jones. He's a bodybuilder, and his thumbnails are also. There's almost always a person in the thumbnail, but there's not always a face in the whites of the eyes. Usually, he's flexing his muscles, and specifically the muscle group that he's working in that particular video. So that's another example of demonstrating really well, but he draws in attention because the guy's ripped as hell, and so it definitely stands out in your YouTube feed when you're going through. You see some crazy ripped person, you're gonna look to see what that is.
Yeah, if you also have a subject in your video that is either a person or something that is extremely recognizable, use that if you can. I'm looking at the trending right now, and it's not just because of the political things, but Donald Trump, any video that talks about him has him in the thumbnail. Because you can just know that there are people who are just kind of soaking up anything that has that name on it. And if you have something that's iconic of what you're studying or what you're doing your video on, that you want people to see, or that you can just draw attention immediately, then that will be a good thing to start. I'm thinking I can see a mushroom cloud for talking about nuclear war, The Incredibles, the mom from The Incredibles, things like that. If you know that there's something that will have instant recognition for most people, then really heavily consider that as your principal thumbnail subject.
Tristan, I have in my head, I have one principal mistake that I made back in the day. When I say back in the day, I mean like 6 months ago. I made with thumbnails. Do you have, besides, I guess you said your character sometimes was too small and the colors weren't right. Was there any other big mistake that you would like to share with the listeners that they might not want to repeat?
I do have some that are complete color disasters, like orange on purple. Trying to put a character on a flag that, like the Icelandic flag, where you can't see what's going on. Mm-hmm. If you want to use text, you have to make sure that it is big and as bold as you possibly can, because people will see it from like a really, really tiny resolution. And I have a few cases where I put in some text that at the really small resolution might be unreadable.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that, like, when you're testing out your thumbnail, you want to be able to shrink it down to, like, I'm trying to remember what size some of these things come out, like 130 pixels sometimes.
That's tiny, man.
And you want to be able to have everything on there recognizable.
That's a good tip. Let me give one more. A mistake that I made is that I was at the moment when I actually started doing animated videos with like things flying in and out, glorified PowerPoints at first, but I think my Trent Affair video, which is now a year old, it's an animated video. I have little characters that move. It's nothing like what I do now, but the thumbnail doesn't necessarily reflect that it will be an animated video. And I've been very conscious in my more recent content since, I guess, my Islam video to show very clearly that this is an animated educational video, because there's a group of people, there's a market out there that want that specifically. They want that animated educational video. And if there's just, for example, in my most recent thumbnail, I almost had put a picture of Jackson with an arrow pointing to the pictures of the presidents. That, however, would not have shown that my video is animated. So I deliberately took Jackson out of the left side of the thumbnail and put in my little animated black character, like my 19th century American. I put that in there essentially so there'd be no question, anybody who glances at the thumbnail, that it is an animated video. That being said, I still feel like my thumbnails are very chaotic at times, and I don't feel comfortable saying that I know all the ins and outs of what to do. I'm still definitely learning, and if you have any tips to share with us about how to make a great thumbnail, you can send them to ytunitedpodcast@gmail.com or tweet us at ytunitedpodcast.
Yes, that's it's a bit of an art. I think that there's still people are still figuring it out, and in the long term, who knows how this will turn out. If I were, Google right now, hi Google, I want to ask you something.
Hello.
If you could, one of the best things that you could do for increasing watch time and session time is if you would let people maybe upload 2 or 3 of their thumbnails and A/B test them and then go with the most successful one. I feel like that would be a very good feature that would improve the click-through experience.
Yeah, I guess the only problem is that YouTube's all about the current now. So the time it takes to do A/B testing, that a video could live and die in the new YouTube world. Oh, Tristan, I remember very distinctly from our last conversation about thumbnails that you really liked what Soliloquy does. And I know he's listening, and Tristan and I really like your consistency. Do you remember what you said exactly about his thumbnails that you enjoyed so much?
Well, let me just load them all up here and get it real quick. I just want to make sure that I understood what my point was.
I remember if you forgot.
So there's a few things that I do like. One, he has consistent branding.
Yeah,
so if you look at his thumbnails, first of all, his thumbnails are all usually black and like kind of grayscale pictures, and usually a single image. And it sticks out because, you have that black on white look, just like, I said was successful. But also, since he has this sidebar on his thumbnails that show the channel's logo and a bright purple that kind of breaks the mold of the black and white. And what that does is that if you're casually looking, say, you're a subscriber of Soliloquy, but you haven't seen all of his videos, or if you're looking through your subscriptions, you'll notice that the branding will make you say, oh, look, new Soliloquy video. You don't even have to see what's in the thumbnail to know that it's a Soliloquy video. Mm-hmm. And if you... Now, he doesn't do this as well as Extra Credits does, but Extra Credits, which is like a video game, like a game development channel, but also has a series about animation and a series where they also do history. All three of those are branded with the Extra Credits look, but they also have different colors for each series so that you can know whether this is a history series, a game series, or an animation series video. Mm-hmm. And they're colored specifically so that when you're going through the channel, you can see it visually.
Good. Tristan, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said about Soliloquy's thumbnails. Tristan, I wanted to ask you a question, and that was, you mentioned that you had, like, your thumbnails could be a little bit boring at times, a little bit like the wrong colors and things, and your character wasn't necessarily big enough. And I can't say that I disagree. If you had asked me 6 months ago, I might have said that your thumbnails are like super good. That's because mine were like significantly worse, and yours were much more consistent from the get-go. Do you have any? I'm just curious. If you open up a tab and look at my YouTube channel, do you have any criticism for me? I feel like thumbnails are one of my weakest things. I feel like I'm terrible at creating thumbnails.
All right, I'm going to type you in right now because we're professionals. I like how one of the top searches is political junkie Berlin Wall.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So there's a few things. I think that you're doing the right thing by showing your face in most of the videos. Mm-hmm. I think you, just looking at the list here, so you have some consistent branding with kind of shade of blue that shows up in a lot of your thumbnails. Not all of them, but most of them. Mm-hmm. And you have like a little picture of you, usually in like hiding somewhere. I would say, let's take an example of your Berlin Wall video thumbnail. Mm-hmm. You have you kind of popping up in the corner, and you have a wall with a, this like little black cartoon character kind of looking around. So the black sticks out on the gray and the blue. That's good. I would think that it's not immediately apparent that that's the Berlin Wall. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah.
People have images in my head. Like, if I was going to make the Berlin Wall, I would have it as the image that everyone remembers today, which is made of, like, big concrete slabs that have graffiti on them, colorful graffiti. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And choose either your character or you and have it much more close up. Like, I think one of the things that you could do is, when you do show up in a video, you should have it as close and take up as much space on the thumbnail as, say, your thank you for hitting 1,776 subscribers thumbnail.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, you really can only focus on one image at a time. Mm. And some of these are a bit too busy, and I think that you could, like, reduce them down. Like, when I think about your Andrew Jackson video, for example, mm-hmm. I would either have a gigantic picture of Andrew Jackson that's been, like, cropped out to have with like your blue background, or you have this really cool image of the crown kind of hovering above your head, and I would kind of sideline everything else and have just like that bigger.
Yeah. Okay. So let's ping pong this a second because I'm curious. Let me just give you my reasoning for making sometimes my thumbnails more convoluted than they probably need to be. Look at Kurtz Gesagt. Okay, I don't base my thumbnails off of them, but since they're kind of on my mind in this discussion, I'll use them as an example. Their thumbnails clearly demonstrate that they are an animated channel, and only animated. The balance that I'm trying to strike is that I have animation in my video, I also have my face in the video, and I wouldn't want anyone to think that I was misleading them by drawing them in with animation and then having my ugly mug show up in the video. On the flip side of that, I wouldn't want to just show my face and then people not click on it because they're less interested in like a personal vlog than they would be if they knew it was animated. And that's the kind of the balance I'm trying to find. It's driving me a little bit crazy because you're right. I think my thumbnails are too busy at times.
All right, then you have to own your face. So if you, because like there's people who know you, know your face. Your face is the common thing that shows up in every video. And so you have to really make yourself the center of your own thumbnail. And this could be something as simple as having every thumbnail have like maybe a third of it taken up with you, and then have the other 2/3 made up of like a simple image that's kind of behind you and maybe like a little bit desaturated so that it isn't as noisy. Mm-hmm. Like if you had for your Berlin video, for example, a big picture of you, like a still from the video or something, photoshopped out. You'd have to have a different picture of you for each video. That'd be fun. And then in the background, you have like the Berlin Wall, something very iconic of the Berlin Wall, like I said, with the graffiti and everything, but it's kind of desaturated, so it's kind of like grayed out a little bit. Mm-hmm. That would be more visually compelling and interesting than like the kind of several. I know you tried to get a red arrow in there. I'm sorry. But I think it would make a bit more sense because you have to think through a few layers of things to understand what the thumbnail's doing. While like when it comes to like your Andrew Jackson video, I think that the visual of the crown going down on a head. Now I know that you're not so subtly referring to the power that Donald Trump's about to take up when you made it. So what I would have done if I was you, because like, you know, we're taking all these lessons together, is I would have had, first of all, in the background, your shade of blue. Then I would have had Donald Trump be the main thing, like kind of taking up most of the space, and then have the crown hovering above his head. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
And
I'm so torn. Yeah.
putting some graphics like the crowd and things like that. Like I think if you had it so it was you with like animation stuff going on in the background, I think you could signal that hybridity that I think you're trying to go for.
Yeah.
Maybe if you just like desaturate the image in the background a little bit, it will.
Okay. I'll have to look into desaturation. Oh man, I feel like one of those people on the reality shows, the hoarders. You know, the people who like have way too much crap in their house and they won't believe anyone when they tell them they need to like take the cockroaches and the pizza boxes out of the living room. I feel like I'm one of those people with my thumbnails. I'm hoarding all this stuff in my thumbnail, but I'm afraid that if I take anything out, then it won't communicate what I want to communicate. This is tearing me apart, Lisa. I hope you got that reference.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I don't know what to do. I have it. I'm planning my next video now, and without giving away the subject matter, I know that in order to get the clicks that I want, I'm going to have to incorporate some text in that thumbnail. And there's no space. If I want to put my face and a figure and some text, good Lord, it's going to be crazy.
Then I think you have multiple elements, and maybe you have 3 major elements you want to put in your thumbnails. I would say for every single time you want to make a video, you pick 2. So you can have text, or you can have animation. And I think you should pick 2 for every video, whichever one works to be the most effective. And I would try to find a way to put your blue shade into every single thumbnail.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing with that Jackson. I think maybe the blue, everything just kind of blended together. The white was the only way to make it pop. I don't know what happened there. The other thing, and here's another question, and this is all about me now. I hate to, we can move on. But the other thing I was doing, if you look back maybe 10 months ago, wow, it was really 10 months ago, 10 months ago, my face was serving as just a brander. It wasn't actually meant to be my face, but rather just to almost as like the brand, like to stand in for a watermark or an actual logo, which I don't have. I don't even know how to. That would be another thing that technically most people would be like shoving into their thumbnail that I don't do because I just have my face. This is an existential crisis at 54,000 subs. What a crazy experience.
So this is another thing I think you could really improve upon when it comes to your branding, and that is you can get a pretty decent logo made. I got my logo from a guy on Fiverr. Mm-hmm. That's Fiverr with like 2 R's. And it was just a guy who designs logos for apps. And I explained him the color scheme and what I was going with, and he drew that little, like, SB thing that... why I like it is because I can put it in every video, and it's easily recognizable as me. It looks good at a big and small resolution, and when you're commenting on other people's videos, they'll see the icon, and when the icon is just a guy's face, that doesn't signal that you're like a big professional YouTube channel as much as like a logo. And I think that might be something to consider when you can drop like, $5 to $7 on something. Perhaps.
I might disagree with you there. And not that I don't want a logo. I know that Soliloquy is also pushing me to get a logo. I know I need one, but I guess I also was procrastinating on it, one, because just not of all the things, for some reason it's on the top of my priority list, but also because there are a lot of YouTubers out there who show their faces like I do, who use their faces as their logo. I don't know if I necessarily want to change that in terms of my actual profile picture for commenting and things, but in terms of thumbnails, I'm gonna have to reconsider after this, because it's coming the time now where I need to settle on something and then roll with it, because my profile picture is old, I don't have a logo, and my way of using thumbnails has always been convoluted. That's got to get fixed.
Yeah, and if you want to use your face, look at cases like Casey Neistat and what they do to their headshots in order to make them like kind of stick out a bit more.
Good advice. Anything else? Hey everybody, thanks for sticking around for this long thumbnail discussion. Once again, if you have any suggestions, at YT United Podcast.
I think it's important. I think that thumbnails are one of the most important skills to master as a YouTube creator. It sounds silly, but the more that I think about it, the more that Tim Schmoyer's advice that you should like almost spend as much time on your thumbnail as you do on your video. If you're like, just a regular vlogger. I think that maybe that time might be a bit exaggerated if you're animated, but I do think that thumbnails are not something that you should just throw together at the last minute before a video comes out. It's something that you should be very deliberate about and that you should think a lot about for each video.
Oh my God, throwing them together at the last minute is how I always do it. Gee. Oh God. Anyway.
I'm saying I'm giving these advice. I'm not saying that I follow this advice very well, but these are, this is just things that I think about. Actually, I think I'm going to have a little bit of a crisis and like write down a whole bunch of changes I want to make after this little podcast is finished recording.
Oh God, I'm having an existential crisis right now. Anywho, I guess we'll skip. We have a very special topic about collaborations, but we'll talk about that next week, because we're going to talk about our new tube resolutions for 2017. You guys, we asked everyone before the new year rolled around, we asked everyone to tweet us, to email us their New Year's resolutions or their new tube resolutions for 2017, what they really wanted to get done on their channels. We got a lot of responses, and I took some of the answers and I wanted to highlight them here. Some people who have been really good about interacting with us, tweeting at us, and I wanted to make sure that they get the attention for doing that. And we're gonna come back to these resolutions. Somebody remind us if we don't do it, but we're gonna come back to these resolutions around December time, and we're gonna see how everyone's doing. And let's go ahead and start. Daniel Petrie sent us a message. He left us a comment. He said he loved the episode. Thank you, Daniel. And he said that his resolution was to post one video a week and to reach 10,000 subs. And he asked actually specifically for a channel review. So, Daniel, I think we'll be able to fulfill that wish for you here in the coming weeks.
We're gonna have
Thanks
to make
for
a
watching.
list.
Yeah, I got him on my list. And Daniel, you said once a week. So, Tristan, you used to post about once a week for a bit there. I know you flirted with it. And up until the point where you reached 10,000 subs, coincidentally, can you give him any tips about how to stay consistent with that kind of a schedule?
Honestly, the main thing is you need to work it into the overall rhythm of your week. So you kind of want to have like, all right, Monday I'm doing this, Tuesday I'm doing this, Thursday, third, all the way through the week. Doing a video a week, depending upon what your channel's like, can be very hard. And I almost don't recommend it unless you are a YouTuber who vlogs. Not to discourage you, but if you want to keep on it, you do have to realize that you have 7 days to do a video project. And so I would probably say, do this by this day. Otherwise, you have to cut off things. So you have to have the script done by this day. So either you finish it before you go to bed, or it's as done as it's gonna get.
I'm just noticing that it's a science channel. Daniel, we're gonna review your channel, but I admittedly haven't looked until just now. This is actually a Portuguese channel. Yeah, it's like I can read it just because it's close to Spanish. Like, ¿Cuál es la diferencia entre? What's the difference between velocity and acceleration? Stuff like that. Is the number pi explained, encryption, curiosities about Venus. Yeah, cool. We're gonna have to watch after this episode ends to see if it's animated or if it's just him talking. But I think your advice is solid. That if it's like a weekly talk to the camera thing, then he's probably fine. But if it's animated, then it's gonna be a week is a grueling schedule. But then again, YouTube in general is all about grueling your schedule as much as you can.
Like a lot of people are expected to keep to weekly schedules, but keep in mind that the people who are doing that successfully are usually people where this is their full-time job. Like, I think I could make a video a week if it was literally the only thing I did.
I could not. I already know I could not, but that's just my own personality style. I just work in phases. It just doesn't. I couldn't push it. I can animate a video in a week. I can animate it in a week if I have to, but I cannot write, film, edit, and animate in a week. It just doesn't work for me. Or if I tried to do it, I'm sure it would put out some really subpar content. Yeah. Anyway,
that's the other thing too, is don't sacrifice a good video just for keeping a weekly schedule. I feel like I was trying that when I was going weekly, and I mean, that's how I think I kind of sunk into mediocrity a little bit in the summer, and that's why I'm doing all of this resets.
Everyone will go through their phases and figure it out for themselves. But Daniel, we'll check back in with you. Happy New Year, a month late, and glad to have you as a subscriber. Another person who's been really good with interacting with us is Frenemythic, who runs a channel about finding little details in movies. Another person, we should probably review their channel this year. And his New Year's resolution is to produce more videos once a month and to get 4-digit subs. So that would be 1,000 or more.
And he's at 217, so he's got, or 217, he's well on his way to getting there.
All right. Well, we wish you the best, and I don't have any more to say on that except that you're gonna get there, and 4-digit subs can happen in a flash. If you close your eyes and open it up, the algorithm can spoon feed you 1,000 subs. It's amazing. At the other end of the line is the trickle, which we all know. The trickle is when, in between videos or when things aren't necessarily going that well, and it's just one a day, or in my case, a couple summers ago, less than one a day. But you'll get through it, and you'll get to that 4-digit sub number.
Yeah, his name's Fedor. He's a buddy. He's a patron of Step Back History. He's a good guy.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know he's commented on lots of stuff. So glad to have you in our little YouTuber community here. Ines from Jock Curiosity wrote us and said that she wanted to get the same growth from 2016 that I think what she's referring to is a collaboration she did with, is it Tom Scott? And
yeah,
she wants to bring that in organically without without a big YouTuber in 2017, which I think, considering the high quality of stuff that she's creating, she'll achieve no problem.
Yeah, to tell you guys a little bit about her story is that she went from 100 to 10,000 subscribers in about 2 days because she submitted a video to Tom Scott's guest video series while he was away in the Arctic or something, and she's been building up ever since. Now, she's got a tough year ahead of her because she's also finishing her PhD. So if she can keep this all up, I will give you the personal YouTubers United Medal of Valor.
Oh, are we doing
Which is the thing that I just invented right now.
Awesome. We're gonna have to, dude. We can do a whole thing with the Medal of Honors, and we can put degrees on them when people get to certain milestone. Oh my God, the ideas. Anyway, I think you're gonna do fine. Surprisingly, it looks really stringent to get on Tom Scott's channel. We were looking in one of our little chat groups with education YouTubers, and everybody was getting rejected right and left.
I got rejected twice. I got rejected for the one that Inés got accepted for, and the new one.
Jeez, man, Tom.
He really doesn't like animated YouTube channels, I think.
Oh man, Tom, man, that anyway. So congratulations to Inés for that achievement. I guess that was 6 months ago now, but you'll get there. And she also said 2 or 3 videos a month, and getting her first sponsor. Which getting a first sponsor is also one of my New Year's resolutions, or my YouTube resolutions for 2017. I don't actually know, besides looking in the places everybody else is looking and doing affiliate links, I don't actually know how to go about doing that. We need to get someone on to tell us about how to reach out to sponsors in a professional way. Name Explain wrote, do a cartwheel as his New Year's resolution. Good luck with that. Could you maybe not do something so serious? Perhaps calm it down a little bit. It's pretty intense.
He's very serious about all things he's done. Have you seen his beard?
Yeah.
Or his mustache? He's a very serious man.
Yeah. I wish I could be as serious as he is with his cartwheels. So good luck. Maybe do on Name Explain After Dark, you could do a series where you upload the steps. You could do your process, make some sort of inspirational video. Day 1, you just show yourself flipping over onto your face, and then 365 days later, you can show yourself cartwheeling down a hill or something. Anyway,
see you accomplish what only you and many 7-year-old girls do.
You could
do a cartwheel.
We love you, Patrick. Junkyard of Boredom writes he wants to, which we reviewed on episode 7, probably. He writes he wants to post more frequently, and he wants to basically incorporate that into his, find more time in small bursts, is what I'm reading into this, to work on his stuff so that he can post more frequently. So similar to Daniel in his desire to create more content consistently, which I know that was one of my resolutions, was to work on my time management. It's getting a little bit better. I can tell everyone that I've written about 2 pages of my next video, which at this point in my other videos process, I wasn't even close to doing. So that's good. The timeline is definitely going faster for me, and I hope it can go faster for everyone else while not sacrificing quality. Tristan?
I think that this comes up a lot. There's a lot of people who are saying that they want to be able to work more on their channel and post more frequently, which is a good goal to have, because making videos is definitely more profitable for your channel than not making videos. I think that there's some growth metrics, which is good, but I like that there's not too many people who are too narrowed down on specific goals. You have Daniel trying to get to 10,000. You have Inés trying to get to 20,000. And I think that those are reasonable. There's none that are like mine, for example, where I wanted to grow by the same percentage, which then when I look back at 2016 was a 9,000% increase or something. So,
oh man, yeah. I have a little announcement to make before we end our show. Is there anything else about new 2 resolutions we need to bring up, Tristan? Good luck, everyone. We're going to follow up with you. We're going to see if everyone achieved their goals, and if you do, then we're going to celebrate with you at the end of the year. Man, it'll be here before we know it. It's already, I mean, we're recording this on the 29th. It's almost February. What the heck? Where's the time gone? I have a little announcement that I'm going to be spending some time in Madrid, Spain in March. And so I'm gonna try to be, I'm thinking about getting a laptop so that I can keep my process going. But if not, then there might be a couple mini-sodes that we post in March that we record before. But I'm really excited. Me and my wife are going back to Madrid. No, vamos a Madrid! I'm so excited, man. I love that city. For those of you who don't know, I lived there a couple of years, and I'm just ecstatic to get back.
It's where you two met.
It is where we met. We met in an Irish pub, strangely enough.
An American and a German met in an Irish pub in Madrid. Story as old as time.
It is. It's Beauty on the Beast. Anyway, so yeah, if you have any questions about your YouTube channel, how to grow, I don't know, you want some tips, you can ask us. We're not YouTube experts, but we are two guys who have done a bit of growing on YouTube ourselves. YT United Podcast at gmail.com, YouTubersUnited.com, Facebook.com/YT United Podcast, and of course, subscribe and review us on the iTunes.
It really helps.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.